Hi everybody, thanks for your attention. Well, it's February in Detroit, a little chilly out here in my backyard. I hope you're enjoying this series on composition. Composition is so much fun because we can be on almost any dive with any kind of camera, and we have the potential to create an original, unique, and interesting image. Remember, this is art, not science. Your opinion counts as more than anyone else's. And if you get a chance, download my outline from my website, theaquaticguy.com, and I always appreciate any feedback. So let's go on. Thank you. In this episode of composition, we're going to be talking about framing rule of thirds. Now, in general, it's nice to, instead of placing your subject dead center, to move it off the center to result in a more compelling image. And this is such a simple technique and idea of composition, and it has helped me so much in my photography over the years. All right, now here's an example of the eye of a turtle with the eye centered in the upper right third of the image. Now there's exceptions. Sometimes it's helpful to place your subject dead center in the frame, especially if you're trying to create symmetry, as in this image of my dive buddy on a wreck, or when you're doing a super macro shot of an eye and you want the whole eye to fill the image, as of this beautiful seahorse eye taken at the Blue Heron Bridge. Or another image of my dive buddy in the center, showing a symmetrical dive profile with fish beneath him and a reflection above him. Now, with the rule of thirds, we split our image with vertical and horizontal lines into thirds and try to place our subject on one of these imaginary lines of intersection. Here's a diagram to illustrate this. And this is not the only way to decenter our image. We can also consider moving our subject just a little bit away from the center or off center, just to try to somehow make the overall scene more balanced or appealing. So here's an example of a crab taken on a beautiful background red coral in Indonesia. But when I decentered the image according to the rule of the thirds in the upper left third of the image, I just think it's a much more interesting image. Here's an example of a snake eel taken at the Blue Heron Bridge, and you can see that the head and face of the snake eel are in the lower left third of this image. And here's another off-center image of a goby in the lower right third of the image. In my opinion, making it more interesting. And here's a super macro shot of the eye of a yellow-lined arrow crab in the lower left third of the image, resulting in more negative space of the non-distracting, even pretty background, which is blurred from the small depth of field with super macro. And this just doesn't apply to macro. Here's a wide-angle shot, sort of a close focus wide angle with beautiful coral in the foreground, and my dive buddy positioned according to the rule of thirds in the upper left third of the image. And here's another image of my dive buddy in the upper right third of the image, my dive buddy on a wreck in the Caymans. And we can also not only have our images oriented horizontally, but the aspect ratio can be vertical. And here we have a blenny in the upper left third, or this macro shot of a shrimp in the lower left third of the image, vertically oriented, or this vertically oriented shot of the eye of an angelfish with the eye, the center of attention, in the lower right third of the subject. And another example of a goby in the upper left third. Just showing a lot of examples to sort of drive the point home, thinking of making your image not to dead center. Now here there's multiple fishes in this image, but I have the main subject, the one closest and in focus, in the lower right third of the image. So I hope this was helpful, just something to keep in mind with regard to image, with regard to composition. Sometimes placing your subject to dead center can make the image a little bit static or even boring, and putting it off center or keeping in mind the rule of thirds can result in a more compelling or interesting image. So thanks so much for your attention.